All right, in this episode, we're talking about how to be recognized as a subject matter expert. And we're doing something unique in this episode. We're interviewing Melanie Benson, who has real expertise in this area. She's going to be teaching us what a subject matter expert is, how to become one, and really how to position yourself as an authority, as an expert. So let's dive into this. So, Melanie, the first question that I have for you is what makes somebody a subject matter expert?
Hmm. So I think a subject matter expert isn't somebody who has to know everything, but they become well known for knowing a specific and important expertise, right? Like, so they have a recognition or a specificity or a specific outcome that they create for people. They've lived it, they've studied it, they've refined it, they've tested it. They've, gotten a repeatable result by deploying their work product or their services. And usually someone who is a subject matter expert, they are recognized because there's a clear methodology or framework or philosophy of some kind. And there's original insights or distinctions that might separate from somebody who maybe has some similar offerings or similar messaging, but it kind of blends in as like a plain vanilla. I think this last one's really key and sets this apart in a lot of ways too, is that they have the ability to simplify the complexity of a situation or process for other people. And I think that's really a unique distinction there.
I really like that perspective. I find that you and I think about it the same way because we could say we're a subject matter expert. We know everything there is to know on the topic, but being able to talk the talk and walk the walk is drastically different. And so being able to get out in the world and apply things, test and prove things. And I also look at a third level of having the ability to help other people. You talked about having a framework that you create around your expertise, and I see that as an amazing system that you can lead people through and get consistent results. So I just wanted to say for all my viewers that have heard me talk about it, so glad that we're basically on the same page with this one. So in a previous episode, we talked about leadership and what is a leader. How hand in hand does leadership and being a subject matter expert, how interrelated are they?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. I think you can be a subject matter expert, but not necessarily be a leader in the same way. I think a SME, if you will, has a depth of knowledge, but a leader creates movement around that knowledge. They create kind of like this rise or this wave of action and implementation and results. So whereas a subject matter expert might teach and deploy knowledge and help somebody implement it, we're talking about creating mass movement towards a common outcome and shared goal. I think there's a lot of experts who are incredibly skilled, but remain relatively unknown because they never step into that thought leadership or that wave of momentum. And then they end up just being a best kept secret. So that's kind of how I would distinguish the two.
I really do believe in the great value of experts and hiring people that are really good and that can help you accomplish a goal. So somebody that is looking for a specific expertise, they find an expert. How can they know if they really are a true subject matter expert?
I'm glad we're talking about this because I think a lot of people think they're hiring an expert and they hire somebody who's really good at marketing their expertise or their talent, but they're not necessarily the expert they're hoping for. I think some of the things you might want to look for is, there's got to be trust and respect and influence there. And you definitely want someone who's sought after rather than maybe the one who's just they're just generating a lot of noise all the time. But I want to go a little bit deeper with this as well. And maybe instead of telling you something works, they can explain why it works. And as you were mentioning earlier, that's because they've tested it, they've deployed it over and over and over again. And instead of saying there's one way, there's my way, they're able to adapt their model, their approach, their framework to different people, different needs, and different situations. So they really integrated their expertise to the depth and level that it doesn't just have to follow one protocol. I think some other things that you'll find like could be clues to someone who's really an expert is they can see in real time when something stopped working. And instead of just staying on the bandwagon or on the treadmill and pushing it over and over and over again, they're willing to say, okay, hold on. we're adapting this in real time to what is going to work better. I think there's also got to be that they're able to show you results, like as the common language is, they can show you the receipts of their expertise in action versus just saying, yes, it works. So they can say, yes, it works, and here's how it worked for this person, that person, or themselves, at least two to three people that have seen some results over and over and over again.
Yeah, that part really is important to me as well, being able to look at case studies. I love testimonials. Sometimes testimonials can be fabricated, but depending on how detailed they are, they can be super valuable in really seeing those receipts like you've talked about. So now, from the perspective of somebody that's really stepping into that role of a subject matter expert, are there any like topics or categories that are off limits, or does this apply to anything you might have expertise in?
Oh, what a fantastic question. I don't really think there could be off-limit subjects except the ones that you don't personally have expertise on. There's a lot of people who they trend jump, right? It's like, okay, I see this trend emerging, and let's just take AI for a moment. Like how many people we saw jump on the AI train who were just learning AI, or I've seen a lot of people who've never made a dime from being a guest on other people's podcasts say that they're going to teach you how to get on podcasts and monetize it. So just because there's a popular subject or topic or area of expertise and you've had a dalliance with it doesn't make you an expert. I think you have to bring integrity, lived experience, actual learning because you've applied it, and demonstrated results to be considered that level of expert. So I say bright shiny object, squirrel, right? Like chase it, but you don't need to teach it until you've become the expert at it.
Okay, so that does make a lot of sense to me. So now I want to look on the other end of the spectrum. What if you have expertise, if anyone has expertise in an area that's really competitive, what advice do you have there?
Yeah, this is a great question. I get asked this a lot where people are like, yeah, this is a saturated market. Why would I go deeper into it? I think you have to decide, what do you want to be known for? And do you want to be known for that specialty, even if there's lots of people in that industry, that niche, that offering, you can still stand out. And that has to do with you leaning into your unique perspective around it, your unique framework, the results that you get that maybe other people don't. Your energy, your brand positioning is going to distinguish you. The trap is when you follow the lead of other people's messaging and you're using common messaging that sounds like everybody else. This is why I teach the lighthouse messaging principles and the strategies around authority amplification, is when you really own your brilliance and what makes you unique, and you know who your ideal audience is, which probably isn't the same as your competitors, then you can actually stand out through what you're known for and the messaging that surrounds your offer. So I think, yes, you can own whatever niche you want, but you might need to specialize, you might need to distinguish yourself, and you certainly need to look at your messaging so that you don't get lumped in with everybody else that sounds similar.
All right, that's an awesome way to look at that. So I appreciate that. Now, the way that my brain works is I always see things from the vantage point of the end goal. And so what would that end goal be for a subject matter expert? What if they become successful or they achieve success as a subject matter expert, how would you define how that looks?
Well, I think the first thing is you become recognized, and that leads to premium clients being referred to you, speaking opportunities coming to you over maybe some of your competitors, media features, invites to be on shows and podcasts. I mean, what we do when we claim, I call it claiming your authority and really like owning that expertise, you are actually positioning yourself so that you can be found, you can be chosen, and you can be invited. This makes you the go-to resource. It makes you a trusted voice. It kind of creates this sought after, like, I want to hear Melanie's position or I want to hear your position, right? And it becomes the person that gets recommended for the stage, for the show, for the client work. And when you do that, you're creating this compounding, multiplying reach of your message, your expertise, and what you're known for. And this is the antithesis of being a best kept secret, right? You don't want maybe one or two people referring you. You want to be the one that everybody goes, oh, yeah, that's Melanie's. Oh, yeah, that's Jane's. Oh, yeah, that's Fred's, right? Like you want that to be the thing your name is synonymous with.
Last question. What would you say, and I'm sure we could talk for hours on just this one question. What would you say is the most effective way to be recognized as a subject matter expert?
Yeah, I actually built a whole framework around this because I think it's obvious to me and you, but sometimes if you're in it, you're like, what? Am I doing the right things? Am I moving the needle the right direction? I believe in creating a authority and visibility ecosystem. And that includes a really clear, compelling, resonant lighthouse message. It's got to showcase your framework, what makes you unique, your expertise, the specific thing you do. But it also has to be laced with strategic aligned visibility. You need to have the right message in front of the right audiences, whether that's in media, whether that's on podcasts, whether that's on stages, on YouTube, wherever your audience is, you need to be in front of them repeatedly, consistently, with your expertise. And one of my favorite ways to do this, and I think we're doing a form of this right now, is what I call intentional collaboration, getting into proximity with people who've already built a platform, built a community, built a stage, and they've created an audience and nurtured that audience. And you can step into that and borrow their authority, borrow their trust and credibility they've built, and showcase what you do. It's a great way to build up the recognition, position your authority, but also start to build your own ecosystem, your own audience, and attract leads and clients.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your expertise in this episode. Now, I know that you've got a free resource that will allow people to really apply what we've talked about here. Tell us about that.
Well, I mentioned this framework that I built. This is the same framework that I built my business on in 2000. It's the same framework that every time I pivoted my brand or I want to create a surge of visibility, I use the same framework. And it's 7 steps that when you put these 7 key pieces together, it's a path that you follow to getting known, to getting recognized, and building your authority and being the one that people refer and recommend. So if you go to MelanieBenson.com/lead, you can download a free copy of it and a little bit of a scorecard there that'll actually help you score yourself and really look at what needs strengthening and what are you already doing well that you can focus on and multiply right now.